Good morning, America, Canada. Good evening, Europe. Good late evening, early morning, Australia, New Zealand. Good day, mate. Hello, aloha. Welcome to, wow, what a show put on by Spore and Dishnet. Woo! Here we are, used to getting some silvers and golds. We got nothing but diamond and perfects, baby. Diamond and perfects all episode long. And whew, some of those names there, yes, and good immortal names of the past. Thank you so much, OOTP and Dishnet, for the raid. Good to see you here. And apparently packs are live because Tetsuiji pulled a Mike Piazza already. Already the packs are hot. So good luck, guys, in your packs. Hope you get something in your packs from the stream today. And yeah, I was just blown away. I think that may have been the best TWIP of the year so far. There have been a lot of good TWIPs, but in terms of card and content and graphic design and stories, yeah, I'm giving that the thumbs up for the best TWIP of the year so far, and we're not even halfway through yet. So welcome all in. This is the HAWC Report 21 Immortals Seasons number 1. Yeah, Heath, I agree. We've been needing a big set, and I'm still overwhelmed from last week's 353 card drop, and now we get these and all these missions. There's something for everyone. If you're playing OOTP and you say that I'm bored, absolutely you can't use that excuse, because there are so many avenues that you can go down playing this game now, and especially over the last week and a half with tourney refreshes and packable cards and missions that are coming in. Whew, I feel like I've done a 3-hour show already. If you're new to the channel because you were playing a little bit of Mario Golf on Twitch and you thought, hey, I'm going to go and look for some baseball stuff, and came across the channel, well, let me tell you, this game, OOTP, Out of the Park 24, you got to get your hands on it. Great simulation game if you like anything to do with simulation baseball, or even if you like Pokemon, because, you know, as mentioned in TWIP, got to catch them all, got to collect them all. And with these missions coming out, if you want those toppers at the end, yeah, you got to catch them all. You got to get them all. So yeah, Laptop Bound streaming Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at around this time. Glad to have you guys here. And we're going to give some packs away, of course, because on the HAWC report, and I know some people ask, well, what does HAWC mean? What's the significance of the name? HAWC, HAWC, with the little hawk up in the corner. Well, Hounds Analysis with Charles. That's what the HAWC report was. It used to be Hounds Analysis with Kidneys with a K. And fortunately, Charles has a good name that fit with the theme of this show. So we will be doing some giveaways. We've got trivia, we've got bounties, all that kind of good stuff coming up a little bit later. And for those of you that play the base game, if you want more base game content on my YouTube channel, I started up a Montreal Expos Draft to Glory 1901 start date, where the Expos can only win the championship through a draft. They can't sign guys, they can't do any kind of trades, injuries are off, just kind of an easy little playthrough with the 1901 Montreal Expos, who formerly were the Boston Bean Eaters, but they had to give up their name. So sorry for you Boston fans, but hey, you already had a team in 1901, so I picked one of them to go to Montreal. And yeah, only can build a team through the draft. So the inaugural draft with all the imported rookie or historical players from different eras, from Roy Halladay all the way to Stan Musial and everyone else before and after. Been a fun series to record, so you can check that out. We're currently in the 1906 season, and the last episode was let's just say it was a cliffhanger at the end. The draft that I went through had a lot of great players in it, including Ohtani. Yes, Ohtani in 1906, and you'll see how the Expos fared out there. In terms of, you know, how things are going up in Canada, in terms of our fire situation, we still have some dangerous things going up on in the Northwest Territories. really dangerous. In fact, the capital city of the Northwest Territories, Whitehorse, is big fires. Yellowknife, I mean, not Whitehorse, Yellowknife in Northwest Territories. You can see the major fire activity, and they believe by the weekend that these wildfires could sweep into the community. And of course, we've heard the devastating news in Hawaii, Maui, and Canada. One of our territories is under some extreme threat right now. And again, you can see the path of the movement of the smoke. So if you live in kind of the Midwest or on the East Coast of the US, expect a little bit more Canadian smoke coming your way. It's been crazy. Fires in Spain, fires in the US, fires in Canada. Reminds me of a few years ago, Australia. Remember, Australia was having significant fires. So be safe, keep your head on a swivel. And if you're in any kind of fire area, make sure you listen for those emergency alerts, and hopefully no evacuations needed. All right, it is time to bring on my co-host, fresh after a recent visit to America. Coming to America, like that Eddie Murphy movie, right? Coming to America. Charles just got back last week from the United States to join us again. And a big shout out to your kidneys for filling in last week. Thank you so much if you're listening, kidneys. Because me trying to do a HAWC report, it would just be the HAW report. It actually just be the HA, literally, because people would be laughing. Ha ha, hound analysis. That's it. Because there would not be anyone joining me. So thank you, kidneys, for joining in last week. Back from his stay in the US and from his new background, it looks like. Charles, how are you doing? Welcome back, buddy.
Hey, thanks. Hopefully, can you hear me and everything?
Yeah, you are coming through clear.
Great. Yeah, no, I remember we were having problems last time because I had light behind me and that makes the camera go crazy. So
yes, it's like I don't know why, but I just immediately thought Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan has joined the HAWC report. I don't know. Maybe it's. I see you on a very small screen, so I don't know if that's stars or if that's just yellow lights behind you. Looks like it's some sort of space Orion system or something. I don't know.
This is actually this is technically an image that we took with the Hubble Space Telescope. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Well, good to see you. It seems to be working okay, and I can hear you fine. And how was your trip to the U.S.?
It went. It was an interesting experience in observing government waste.
Did you have any kids kicking the back of your seat on the plane?
No, nothing too bad with that. Just
he crumbles. And speaking of cards, congratulations to our winners in the trivia contest. Again, we'll do a draw for a 5-pack winner a little bit later. But let's get on to the card report. Again, fantastic new season program coming up here. I still haven't decoded it all, but looks like we have 7 different tracks that you can go on. You can finish all the tracks. You can finish one track. They have toppers. They have end of era topper. Like, there's so much to process here. But let's talk about the eras: dead ball, rebirth, golden years, baseball boom, defensive era, power pitchers or power years, and modern times. All right. I'm just going to go in the order that they presented them, Charles. So again, because there are so many, we don't want to go on for, the rest of the day, because we definitely could. But I'm going to start with my Blue Jays and Marcus. 99, shortstop, second base. Quick opinion.
So let's see. So first off, looks like ideally you'd like to platoon him if you're going to play him, right? In other words, much better versus righties with that bat. I do have him definitely as the best 99 overall second baseman. So I think you are gonna. I see the trivia contest. They're saying is still blocking the screen. Okay. Yeah. So I think he's probably the best 99 overall second baseman. So if you're gonna play like full diamond, is the card you want at second. I don't think I'm quite going to play him in the league because I think a couple of the 100 overall second basemen are still going to be better. I'd rather run Jackie, for example. But should be a really good card. I'd expect him to play in Diamond for a while.
All right. Yeah. Good. Better against the right-handed pitchers. Really good defense, infield range. So if you can't get the Jackie and you pull this card, definitely a playable card, and you're up to Diamond, and got that Blue Jay logo on it. Next up, Jose Ramirez. We don't have a fighting or an aggression slider on here, but what do you think? Versatile player, can train up in left field.
Yeah, I don't think this one's going to be as strong. There's just a lot of really good third base options right now. So at third base, you're comparing him with a card like A-Rod or something like that. So I think this one's probably a fair bit behind. And the flexibility might not help so much because a lot of the cards you'd be comparing him with also play multiple positions. Sandberg plays multiple positions. A-Rod plays multiple positions. Schmidt plays multiple positions. So I don't think it's so hard to find a way to build out a depth chart.
All right. Again, great card art. Perfect card, 100 card. Get them in the spotlight packs as one of the possible hundreds today. And again, can play 4 positions. If you have a Cleveland theme team, good luck. And, great card, great player. Next up, we've got the Power Years. So those that like to play Power Year tournaments, 90s and early 2000s, we have Rafael Palmeiro, who definitely was a power guy. And Charles, look at that.
Gold glove, Rafael Palmeiro.
Yeah, I like the power. I like the eye. Looks like a really good card. I mean, if it was a 94, it'd be a great card for
Absolutely,
low diamond.
Yeah.
But how about for the 98 it's given?
Well, I think the problem is because it's a 98, now you have to compare it with kind of the cards at the top end for first base. And so maybe a card that has a pretty similar shape you could put him up against would be someone like Mark Teixeira. So let me see. Okay. Or if we want, I can find sort of a platoon one as well. Actually, I can also pull it up, can't I? Let me do the screen sharing thing.
So Mark Teixeira, which again is a great first base card that came out a couple weeks ago. So you're putting Palmeiro in kind of that category with him. And I think so. I think that's probably
so. That would be an example of a good comparison because you're sort of only playing, especially for a card that only plays first base and DH. There's only so many cards like that you can play.
Right. Okay. And
here,
This is asking, what is the basket helmet? What would it do? And Spores, that's a hidden rating. We can't tell you that. We can't tell you the hidden helmet.
What the basket helmet would do is it would be a 3-base award for the batter runner.
Okay. Next up, Mike Piazza, who Tetsuiji pulled at the very beginning of the stream. One of the first to ever get probably a Mike Piazza Dodger legend, Dodger immortal. Again, look at that BABIP for Mike. Look at the power. Now, because you're an eye guy, you like that eye, definitely into the blue. Catcher ability is, probably one of the best we've seen a Piazza card maybe ever. He tends to have not that great of catching ability. What do you think about Mike and his contributions to Perfect Team?
Yeah, so I think normally I would have said I'm not a huge fan of the eye kind of for a bat first perfect. But the card we got to compare this with is Josh Gibson here. I can put Gibson up for comparison if you want. So this is probably the card to compare him against. And you notice Gibson also doesn't have a lot of eye. In fact, Gibson's even 10 points lower on the eye than Piazza. So as a result, I think Piazza's bat probably is going to come out pretty similar to Gibson's. Like I have him as slightly ahead in Woburn, slightly behind in, say, OPS or something like that. But they're going to end up being pretty similar bats. And then you start to look at, well, okay, you've got 80 catcher ability on Gibson. You've also got the 80 catcher ability on Piazza. So probably these two are going to end up being pretty comparable. I think of the two, I might slightly prefer Piazza running as a catcher. You know, if you're doing this in some kind of funny cap tournament where it's important that Gibson plays other positions, you know, maybe that's useful. But I think the cards are going to come out really to be pretty similar.
Yeah. And it was mentioned on stream, I think, by Spore about the outfield ratings on cards, that just in the design of the layout that they have here, that they throw in that outfield range, and that by no means should you be playing this card in the outfield. So we're looking at catcher.
Yeah, it's not an outfielder. Yes.
Yeah. Unless you want to, you know, have some fun and see how many games you could lose in a season, go for the lowest ZR rating. We had a trivia question, the highest. Maybe he could get the lowest one if you put him out in the outfield. So that's interesting.
Mr. Audit theme team.
Yeah, exactly. Great that he compares with Gibson. Gibson, I think, was a mission card, right? You had to get him through finishing the Negro League missions.
Yeah, that was from the Negro League 2 set, I think.
So this one card you can get in the packs. Great substitute if you don't want to finish the mission for Gibson. I definitely, if I could pull a perfect card today, this would be one of the ones I would want to pull. So great job with Mike Piazza, and I like to see the catcher ability up there as his defense rating definitely makes him a more playable card. Okay, next up we have the defensive era. So those of you that play in the defensive era tournaments where you're looking for glove, shortstop, center field, catcher. First one, Jose Canseco. No, I think he's power, isn't he?
Which is, as I was going to say, I usually don't think of him as a defense first guy.
I don't think he's defense. Yeah, no, he's.
No, I think he fits that era, like, you know, in terms of the years, but he's not. Right. Defense is not the first thing that comes to mind for me when I think about even a young Jose Canseco.
Yeah, I thought I'd throw that one in there for the meme. Defensive stalwart Jose Canseco. No, yeah, he's definitely going on the power. So where do you put him? Right field, corner infielder. You know, I'm not sure of the meta for the high diamond, you know, players. We got James Wood, and we got, you know, those guys that have been around for a long time.
Yeah, I think
is he in that category, or is he just slightly kind of still below that?
I think Wood's still better, and also, for example, Luke Easter, who came out last week, is another player that can play in the corners. That's probably going to be a bit better. So maybe the one difference here is Canseco probably is the best right-handed option. So one of the things to remember now, one of the big changes, I don't know if we're going to talk about it later or not, you know, but one of the big changes was adding parks to some of the tournaments. And so you could imagine that there are going to be some tournaments in parks where it becomes really important to play right-handed hitters over left-handed hitters. And in one of those parks, now this is a card you're probably going to want to run because the players ahead of him are left-handed. But in a balanced park, then I think you're going to want to run these lefties.
Okay. Jose Canseco to go along with his 40 rated iron card.
Whoops, was I supposed to put up Jose? Sorry, I probably should have put up Jose.
Oh, that's okay. I'll put him up here. I've got him right here. So Jose Canseco. Yeah, I thought. Sorry, I wasn't looking at your screen if you had him up, but here he is, Jose Canseco. So you're looking to play him in tournaments with?
Yeah, I think he's behind kind of the top corner outfield options. But if you have a tournament that's in a park which really strongly favors right-handed hitting, right? We just had this PTCS in a park where righties could hit homers and lefties really just couldn't. So in a park like that, then having a right-handed option becomes a lot more interesting.
Okay. Also from the 1980s, the Detroit Tigers, Willie Hernandez. And you kind of foreshadowed a little bit earlier that you thought this was a unique card. What were you kind of referring to there? What do you
Well,
like about this?
I think I'm going to be the person that is stupid enough to run this card as a starter. That's maybe the biggest thing.
And is it because of the stamina?
The stamina is almost enough, and especially in an early era, I think you could take a shot at it. I also like that he has these reverse split options. But the biggest reason that I want to run him as a starter is because of a couple of the other things on the card that are hidden a little bit. So one of the changes that was made in the background to the game a couple of weeks ago, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week and a half, there was basically a change to the way that fatigue settings worked. And there was also a change to the way that, so there's a change to the way that stamina built up for pitchers. And there was a change to the rules for what happens if you run a starting pitcher who is not on full rest. And there are some interesting features of how that was implemented, where I think Willie Hernandez, because of those features, becomes a really interesting starting pitcher. I don't know whether that was intended.
And people in the chat are saying even with just having two pitches. So you mean more like
because normally you would want at least a third pitch if you're going to run somebody as a starter.
So is this more like an opener role then, where you just put him in for very limited pitch count?
It depends on the era and the tournament setup. But like I said, I think he's going to interact with the game engine in a way as it's currently programmed, where he's going to be an interesting starting pitcher. That's what I'm expecting.
Okay, well, you have to keep us updated if you happen to get a Willie Hernandez. And great for you to try it out that way, because most would see this as a reliever, especially with the two pitches and the stamina. But yeah, that's a good take on that, Charles. All right.
Yeah, I mean, if he's as a reliever, I think it's also worth noting that he has, kind of the splits on that card. So as a reliever, it's a little bit trickier, just because of what the splits look like.
Right. Moving to I guess we're in the baseball boom, the 60s and 70s right now. And first card was a card that 2 years ago was one of the most sought after cards for his defense. It was the Mark Belanger. I don't know if you remember that card, but it was a pretty hot card, I think, in OOTP 22. Here, the defense, I mean, you've run Bancroft a lot in your league. To me, this is a similar kind of makeup to the Bancroft card. Does it get there, or is Bancroft still, slightly ahead?
So the glove, I think one of the features of Bancroft, I'll see if I can, I have to click into a tournament to bring it up, don't I? I was saying, one of the features of Bancroft is that he also has a lot of eye this year, which helps Bancroft because at least, he's not getting a lot of hits, but he at least gets on base a little bit. And similarly, this Belanger is also a card where there's a little bit more eye. So it's a bad bat. This is clearly a glove first card, but it's maybe not quite a zero bat because there's at least a little bit of eye. So if you look, for example, I can pull up Bancroft for comparison. Bancroft, you get 106 range, but you also get about 100 eye. And that was enough that this card sort of hit enough that you could play it in league. If you look at Belanger, now you've gone from 106 to 107 range, so very similar on the range, but there's just a lot less bat, even though it's kind of eye heavy. So I don't think this is a card that you're going to want to play in league. If you're going to play a card like that, you would just much rather play Bancroft, I think. As a tournament card, though, yeah, I do think there are formats where it makes sense to go glove first at shortstop. And For those, this could be a really good card. I might think about running this in some early eras where your shortstop defense matters a lot more. And also, this has a much better error rating than a lot of the cards. We've seen that a lot of these cards that have enormous range, they get to a ton of baseballs, but they also make a lot of errors. Bancroft only has a 75 error rating. The Herman Long we looked at before has 70. This really, this also has a 99 error rating. So it's a significantly better glove probably than some of the other ones we're looking at. I do think I'm going to try to run this card in at least early era things.
And
maybe
low diamond,
go for the bat
is
instead.
Shortstop, defensive shortstop and low diamond?
Definitely the best one as a defensive one.
Right.
There's also a really good Furcal that came out as a gold tournament edition card. There's Jose Valentin, which is, a much better offensive card. But yeah, I think this is one that would be in the mix. And if you've got to build where you want to build defensively, yeah, you're giving up on the bat. So it's got to be the right build.
Now, again, for those because Bancroft, let's face it, to get Bancroft, you either have to pay a lot on the card shop or you have to do really well in a tournament with at least 128 players and have him offered to you in the choice pack. If you can't get a Bancroft, you're on a low budget and you pull this card in a pack, you still got to be pleasantly surprised and happy, right? Because
definitely pleasantly surprised and happy, but I would also sell him. I think one of the, every team is operating on a budget like in real baseball. And the easiest way to chew up a budget is basically buying cards that aren't top tier cards, but also aren't really cheap. Okay. So I think if you could get $50K for him or something like he's going for right now, I'd much rather take the $50K and either replace him with a very cheap option that's almost as good, or take the $50K and save up and eventually buy a really good option. But
so
I think you're just going to spend a lot.
You wouldn't keep him and play him like in specific tournaments if you played in specific tournaments? Like if you play in low diamond tournaments, you're keeping him, aren't you? Because he's a valuable shortstop. Isn't he better than that $50K then?
The problem, I think I would only do that if I'm getting if I'm getting powerful cards at every position so that I'm really trying to compete in diamond tournaments, then it's worth kind of investing in the current diamond cards. But if you only have one or two of those, I think you're better off picking something where you can really get a very strong team. So now you still may think, as people are pointing out in chat, they're also not just for this card, for every card, there are going to be missions that the card is part of. So yes, this card will have value for immortal missions. Depending on how good the immortal missions toppers are, you might either decide that that's a lot of value or there's not enough value and you pick a different program to focus on. That's a tough one to predict because you have to see what the cards look like in order to make that guess.
Okay. And yeah, if you missed the show with Dish and Spore earlier, they are going to replay it as a live tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. So if you need to get your OOTP development packs, you can get those later tonight and watch the broadcast. Again, it was a fantastic show, a lot of information, a lot of cool stories about some of these players. We're giving you the eye test right now of the cards coming out. We do have a break coming up here, Charles, so we'll be back in a couple minutes and we'll run through the rest of the cards, another giveaway a little bit later on. And yeah, we're going to open some packs and see if we can pull some of these cards back in 2 minutes. All right, welcome back and running through these cards here. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Hawk Report number 21. And again, a giveaway coming up a little bit later. So we ended off on Marc Belanger.
Yeah, I realized I can give a better answer maybe to that last question.
Okay.
I think the way I would think about it is this. Let's say the card's worth $50K. So for $50K, you can do one of two things. You can add one card to your collection of low diamond tournaments, where because they're expensive, you might be one of the few people that has all of the best cards together. Okay. Or if I were to sell him and use that 50K, I can actually buy all of the key new cards that just got released in the new tournament cards for silver. And I can be one of the first people that has a completely full, like, meta silver build when a lot of people haven't collected those cards yet. So the question is, which is more valuable? And I think the answer depends on how many of the other diamond cards you have. If I have almost all of the top diamond cards, then because diamond's a more expensive format and the gap between the people that have every card and the people that don't is bigger, it's worth more to me to have one really good diamond card and, try to kind of extend my run. You may have noticed that the Viffers have done so well. They won diamond many, many weeks in a row. Whereas in most of the other formats, nobody's winning like bronze every week in a row. Well, this is because the competition is deeper in bronze. There are more people that have access to every possible card, so the gap between the good and bad teams is smaller. So I think the decision you'd be making is, do I want one card that's going to help me in low diamond because I think it's going to put me over the top? Am I at the level of a team like the Viffers, where I can compete with that? Or is this my only really meta diamond card right now? In which case, instead of having one meta diamond card, I can have a full meta silver team and be one of the best teams there. So I think that's kind of the way I think about the decision. So it's not that it's a bad card. It's just kind of a recognition that it's very difficult to collect every single useful card in the game. And so you're always having to decide what's the best use of my points. Is that kind of a good way to put it?
That makes complete sense. It absolutely does. You're utilizing your resources to strengthen maybe an area where you can show stronger play. And if it's just one of many that you need, well, you're still a long way away from being competitive with some of these great teams. I mean, if it's the one thing you need, it's absolutely worth the 50K to improve one key card that your opponents might not have. So that's why, and that's what props up the prices for some of these new cards, is the teams that are focused on that and have most of a complete build. They want to be the first ones to get the card to put them over the top, because now they're suddenly the best team until everybody else catches up. So what you're saying is, if I play Magic the Gathering and I have a really good deck, but I'm just not quite there yet, and I don't play Pokemon, but I buy a pack of Pokemon cards and I pull this really rare one, sell that Pokemon card, buy the Magic cards to fill in my gaps and compete better over there.
Especially if it's that one you were showing us a few weeks ago that was going for like $5 billion or something.
Yeah. Well, I think I'd have a really good Magic deck if I was able to sell one for $5 million. All right. Yeah. Joe Morgan. So we saw the Marcus card, and yeah, it is Bellinger. I'm sorry, I'm Canadian, and sometimes when we see names like that, we put the French pronunciation because there's a lot of French-speaking people around here, so I always say Belanger. But yeah, it's Bellinger, I would imagine. Joe Morgan. We had the Marcus card a little earlier, and I know we had I rocked this asking, do you play Joe Morgan over Marcus at second base? So what do you think about the Joe Morgan card? We already have the 99 Joe Morgan, a tournament card. Good eye, good power. And I think someone on the main, when they were talking about this earlier today on TWIP, I think that they said that in certain tournaments, he's definitely a must play. I can't remember exactly how it went, but what do you think about Joe Morgan?
The Diamond Morgan is an excellent card, but the main problem with the Diamond Morgan is the glove is just not very good. He's got 64 range at second. So the problem is that card's primarily a DH. And the really nice thing about this card is you're also starting with 96 range at second, 94 turn double play, the weakest part of the card is the arm, but as a second baseman, your arm doesn't have to be all that strong. The other things are a lot more important. So this is a really good defensive card. For example, a lot of people at the high end are running Jackie. Jackie's got 97 range, 96 turn double play. Morgan's pretty close to that defensively. He's only 1 point behind in range, a couple points behind in turn double play. So this is a card which defensively is almost as good as Jackie, but then the bat's a lot better. So,
okay. All right, and we have confirmation. We have confirmation about Mark. It's not Bellinger. It's not Belanger. It's Belanger. Belanger. Okay, I think I got that. Belanger.
Yeah. But if we go with Mark, we're definitely right if we just go with Mark.
Yes. Yes, Mark will be what I say from now on, because I got to give credit to broadcasters that they have to do the research and make sure that, because I mean, if you're a player and you're getting your name butchered all the time on a stream or on a play-by-play on TV, it's got to be a little upsetting for some people. So yeah, we'll try and do a better job of pronouncing it. So Belanger. Okay.
Yeah.
So Joe Morgan. Let's move on to where are we on the golden years? 46.
Someone's asking about Morgan versus Jackie. I think Morgan is just going to be a lot better than Jackie. The big difference is one's righty and one's lefty. But even if you just look at Morgan on his bad side, I think he's probably going to come out a little bit ahead of Jackie. So I think this card just plain replaces Jackie. Having said that, if you have room, you'd still like to platoon him. You'd still like to find another second baseman to play versus lefties if you can find a good one. And one thing about this card is he only plays second. So you'd probably want the other second baseman to play multiple positions. So a couple options you could look at. There's the limited edition Ryan Sandberg still, which would be a good option for something like that. There's also the PTCS Dustin Pedroia that just came out. But the thing about Pedroia is he also only plays second base. So even though Pedroia is going to be, really good defensively, and so that's probably going to make him a little bit better overall, I think I would rather platoon Morgan with Sandberg, who plays multiple positions, or Jackie again. Jackie also plays multiple positions. I think that's going to work better as a platoon because Morgan only plays second.
Right. Well, that's interesting. So I know we've been waiting, Jackie's been the stalwart second baseman and no one's replaced Jackie. So what you're saying, Charles, is now we have a card that you think replaces Jackie at second base.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
You could certainly build a park where, for example, if you build a park that really favors right-handed hitters, then it might be more difficult to play Morgan there. But I think Morgan probably should just replace Jackie at second. Yeah.
All right. And yeah, boiled egg, I agree that, some sports names are even more, difficult to pronounce. Hockey, you get a lot of, European names, French Canadian names. Basketball, you get a lot of names that are very difficult to pronounce as well. Players coming from Turkey or Greece. Yeah, it can be a challenge. It's there's not a lot of Smith and Jones. They're not all Smith and Jones out there easy to pronounce. So Joe Morgan, congratulations. You are the man replacing.
No, the man's the next one we're doing, right?
Oh, the man is the next one. Oh, okay. Lindy McDaniel. So we haven't got too many pictures yet.
We're not up to the man yet. Okay.
Not quite yet. Closer, Lindy McDaniel, 1960. We're using him 3 pitches. Obviously, the stamina is low so he's in the bullpen. Give us your take.
Yeah, I don't think I didn't see too much with him. Let me see if I can try to check really quickly. But he didn't look like he's going to be critical. I mean, it's a solid enough card, but there are a lot of really good, especially right-handed relievers that have just been released in this last set. So I don't think he's going to be a critical one to go out and get. Obviously, there's going to be mission value in all of these.
Right. Okay, well let's move on to the next picture. Preacher.
Yeah, I'd rather run from this last set Ryan Presley, or see, this is the pronunciation when I was having trouble with, because when he was in Boston, we were told it was Mark Milan, but I'm told that now the right pronunciation, he prefers Melanson. That was the one that got me last time when we were.
We've got all these names now coming up from hockey and baseball. Peter Sidorkowitz. I know that one. Peter Sidorkowitz. That one for sure I know. Doug Minkovitz, right? Is it Doug Minkovitz?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Minkevich. So yeah, it can be a challenge sometime. That's why I like to stick to first names most of the time. Okay. Yeah. This one I can pronounce. Preaker Rui. What do you think? Preacher Rui. No. Preacher Roy. Roll. Oh, okay. Over to you, Charles.
I think the pitcher BABIP's going to be a problem on this one. So,
okay,
probably less interested in him. One thing I was curious about, because I see Spores in the chat, thought about making these. There's a 1945 card, and the player pool in the majors in 1945 was a lot weaker than it was, a couple years previously or the year after because of the war. And are cards actually adjusted for that, or is it assumed just kind of that every year is the same distribution? So if you were the best in 1945, you kind of end up at the top. Because anyway, something I was curious about. But no, I think the card, with this pitcher BABIP is probably not one to focus on.
Right. And yes, I can pronounce Leon Draisaitl from your Edmonton Oilers. I mean, it's not like Jack Hughes from New Jersey Devils. I mean, that's an easy one to pronounce, but both really great players. Just Leon Draisaitl from Germany. Yeah, I got to know that one really well.
Yeah, no, it's tough. The other ones that are tough are like these European names where it would be pronounced one way in Europe, but then when they come to the US, if the family's been there a couple generations, usually they pick a sort of Americanized pronunciation or something like that.
Right.
So
right. Like LOWE, right? Like in baseball, sometimes it's like Derek Lowe. And then what's the other pronunciation? Lau?
I guess
isn't there a player
it's basically love is what the name is.
Okay. I thought there was one that spelled LOWE that pronounces it Lau or something like that.
Brandon pronounces it Lau, I think. And then yeah.
In German, it would be Lauve. Louvre? No, that'd be French.
Louvre or something.
Louvre.
Yeah.
Louvre, like the museum.
That W is really like a V.
Okay.
But it's like probably loud and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you would think that, it'd be an easy name to pronounce, LOWE. I mean, 99% of people would probably say low. But yeah, like you said, there's just some tricky names out there. Okay, Charles, you're getting off task here. Preacher Row, let's move on from him and talk about the rebirth era now, 1921 to 45. Or no, we're still in the 48 era. Oh yeah, this one, our first pick in the bounty draft.
Now we got
Musial. Now we got some hype and energy going now. The outfield with Ken Griffey Jr., Mickey Mantle. I guess the question I would have, does he replace Mickey Mantle? Because he doesn't replace Ken Griffey Jr.
I mean, the problem is that what you're doing, let's say you compare this with a card like Mantle. What you're doing is you're essentially trading, you're losing 50 points of I, and what you're getting back is like 18 points of that, of BABIP or something like that. So it just ends up not, this card's actually pretty far behind a lot of these others because of the I. Now you do have a better glove as well, but I think this one's unlikely to kind of end up in the meta for teams that have most of the cards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this like a Bollinger where if you pull them, you sell them?
Yes, but unless you're kind of saving it for the mission value. But I
Right.
think that's
Right.
true
Right.
for a lot of these, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And believe me, we saw some of the cards coming in the missions and the toppers, and I don't know. I haven't looked at missions. I don't know the point value compared to the regular missions, but absolutely, you can bet those cards are likely to be very playable, in perfect league. And so therefore, yeah, you may not want to sell it because when we get closer to the end of these missions, they're going to be a lot more expensive to pick up later on, I would think, depending on, how many are pulled and all those things. But as we get to the era toppers, especially in these weeks right here, Charles, those
Yeah.
prices are going to go up for people that don't have them.
Right. And one thing I was curious, I think I heard on stream something about that actually set 2 was next week. So there was not going to be a long time
Oh,
between them. I don't know if I heard
oh,
that correctly, but I think I
oh,
had heard that on stream. So if it's a short
oh.
time, then it would be even more, important to kind of hold some of these. Whereas if you've got a longer time, then you could wait. Okay, not next week. All right.
Okay, it's not
If it's
next
not
week.
next
Okay,
week,
yeah,
then I misheard that. Okay, then in that case, I think you have a little bit more time to collect these.
right. Okay, good. So, if I pull one, I'm keeping them. I'm playing them because I don't have Mickey Mantle and I don't have King Griffey Jr. and I don't even have James Wood. So I'm playing them, but I'm in gold. So I mean, obviously, if you have all the cards, you're going to find other uses for them, which is probably going to be the missions. Next up,
Yeah.
where do we leave off? We got
Yeah, I mean, I
Preacher.
think
We've
someone
got
asked about even versus lefties, but I think even versus lefties, well, you'd still rather play Griffey in center. You'd still rather play Winfield in right. You'd still rather play Mantle somewhere, uh, and you're still running cards like Pujols or something like that, or Schmidt or something like that at DH. Plus, you now have this new Joe DiMaggio that you also want to fit in someplace ideally. So actually, maybe you're
great,
running Joe at DH.
great segue. Great segue to Joe DiMaggio. So we looked at. I mean, here's two that are listed at in the outfield, right field, center field, and just the eye test. We can see that Joe, eye is pretty close, right? 71 and 73,
Yeah.
but the blue is much deeper blue. And same with the
Yeah, so
field.
it's a bigger bat. It would always be nice if the card had more eye, especially versus righties. But everything else on the card is really good. And the big thing is that this is a pretty good defensive outfielder. So, he's only a center fielder. You're not allowed to move him to a corner. So you have to compare him with center fielders. And that's going to be the big flaw with a card like this is when you compare him with center fielders, you're now comparing this card with, say, Griffey. And, Griffey has 100 range in the outfield. This card has 94, which is the same, I think, as Hidalgo. So, excuse me, not Hidalgo. Hidalgo's 98, which is the card I was just looking at. People were, Bellinger? Yeah, it's more like Bellinger, who has 93 or something like that. So you're getting a card which, if you wanted to play this at like the really high end of league level, it's going to be a problem. Well, it's true that there are only 10 Griffies in the game, but I was looking at chat, but I could ask the following. What's the last team that won a perfect league title without a Griffey on the roster? Because if you're asking, should I buy a 100 overall card to really bump up my league right now, the day of release, instead of like waiting for the prices to come down, you're probably thinking about this as, am I ready to win my Diamond League this week and push to win Perfect League? Or am I in Perfect League and really trying to get this card to push me over the top so that I'm willing to pay a day one price instead of waiting for everything to become cheaper as more copies end up in the game? So that's why a Griffey is kind of the card to compare a center fielder to. I think the other thing, I mean, I think that
did he leave New York? Is he a theme team possibility?
No, he did not leave New York, so he's not eligible for the theme team. Finished his career with the Yankees.
He did not escape from New York.
Did not.
Okay.
But yeah, this is still going to be a really good card. And, I think the other thing to consider here is right now, if you don't have a card like Griffey, this is a card you're going to think about running in center field. In the long run, the fact that this card only plays center and can't be moved to a second position means you can't really play him as a platoon bat, only versus lefties, even though that bat is so good. It's going to be difficult to play him as a platoon bat because he only plays one position. So it's tough to build a depth chart. So unless that bat is good enough that you're actually willing to DH him versus lefties, then I think he either has to be your starting center fielder or not on the roster at all. At the moment, if I had the card, I would start him in center. So I think it's good enough that you can start him in center now, but it probably has a shorter shelf life than some of the others because it doesn't have the flexibility to play elsewhere.
Okay. I know it's hypothetical, but let's say that the Ken Griffey limited edition to 10 card didn't exist. Is this your starting center fielder then?
Versus lefties, definitely. If you go both ways, okay, if you have an Ichiro, you'd probably rather do that. You might prefer Winfield's bat. No, you'd probably run Winfield and right. Yeah, I think so. I think then you'd probably run him in center.
All right. Good to know. And
especially if you have a righty heavy park.
Right. Okay, next we've got the dead ball, or I think we're on the dead ball pitchers, unless my slides are out of order. Yes. So Roger, 99. He's got the Wayne Gretzky number there, 99. Catcher with a lot of ability, really good arm, speed, that multi-purpose dead ball. Looks to me, if I'm a dead ball player, Charles, again, just from the eye test, I like it because the BABIP, the gap power, the eye.
And the eye,
Yeah.
Exactly. You mentioned the eye test. This is exactly, I mean, it's funny because last week I would have mentioned that we had a really excellent Roger Bresnahan release too. I think I have been playing in dead ball tournaments. And, and now in that one's a high gold card. And this is now a similar card to the other Bresnahan, but maybe even a slightly weaker bat, but a much, much better glove to the point that, you really can think about playing him at a lot of levels. This is even a card where you could think about running him on the league side, I think, because, this is going to be a better defensive card than the Piazza or Gibson that we just looked at. He's not going to be as good defensively as a card like Mathis, but now the bat is so much better that you'd think about doing it in the same way that the Biz Mackey and Frank Duncan that came out last week. The glove's not quite as good as Mathis, but the bat's so much better that really they're probably a better version. If you've been playing Mathis in league like I had until last week, you probably would upgrade him to Duncan or Biz. I'll admit I didn't get around to it yet, but I would if I got one of those cards. And this is even yet more of an upgrade. So I think you're going to see this card, even though it's not a perfect, I think you're going to see him on a lot of league rosters, especially the ones that are playing like more defensive oriented catchers. And this is the best bat of the defensive oriented ones.
Yeah, no, I really like this card. I like the construction of it. A question I get sometimes is, of course, it's the dead ball era. So, we've looked at comparing two different eras, but we've been looking at a lot of the offensive stats. In terms of the defensive stats for dead ball, is the catcher, because I've heard conflicting reports. In your opinion, does the catcher have much value defensively in the dead ball era, or are you going strictly for bat?
So the reason what catcher ability is doing is it's helping you frame pitches and try to get more strikeouts. So in an era where there aren't a lot of strikeouts, the value should go down a bit. On the other hand, there are just generally fewer runs in the dead ball era. A lot of teams are going to try to run more and try to create runs that way. And so you actually do care about catcher arm still, I would think. But this is a really good defensive catcher both ways. He's got both the 92 catcher ability, which is higher than Gibson and Piazza. It's kind of in that middle tier. But then he's also got 96 arm. So you're going to be quite happy with him behind the plate in dead ball as well.
Excellent. Yeah, I if I could pull a card today, it would be this one or the Joe Morgan so far. And the last one is the Tim Keefe that was in a couple trivia answers or possibilities.
I wish we had the 1880 with that, 0.8 ERA. That would have been, but this is a pretty good card too.
That would have been Sandy Koufax level, I think.
Yeah.
So 3 pitches, really good stamina. I mean, dead ball era. He's gonna pitch till his arm falls off. The BABIP, if those were reversed, this would be a top end dead ball era card, I think, pitcher. But because they're not reversed, is this going to dramatically impact his play?
Probably not, but it's funny because if you look at the shape of the card, you wouldn't have guessed it's a dead ball card. You would have guessed it's a more modern card. Like you could compare, say, the Tim Keefe and, Zach Greinke and ask which one's the dead ball card. And you'd probably guess Greinke's the dead ball one, or Maddox even more so. Looks much more like what you would have thought is a dead ball era player. So I think this is a dead ball card that isn't going to play in dead ball tournaments, but he's in that same tier as a card like Greinke in modern. So, there's a card that if you get, you're happy to put on the roster in the same way that you're happy to run Greinke. But it's probably not a difference maker the way like a Hilton Smith or Ray Brown from last week could be for a team.
So is he more of a top 10 card right now compared to top 5?
Maybe 10th to 15th, something in there where you're certainly happy to run him, but it's not essential.
So if I want that elite dead ball era tournament card, would I reverse stuff control and reverse home run suppression pitcher BABIP, and then I'd have that build?
Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah, that would be an incredible card because it's really going to be the pitcher BABIP and control that are so important.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. There is another high-level card that you guys can get in packs and the Spotlight packs. And remember, Spotlight packs are only for 24 hours, maybe 22 hours left now. So if you plan on getting them, you're going to have to get them before tomorrow at about 1 p.m. Eastern. Then they gave us a little bit of a tease, and some of the cards that are the toppers, we don't know any stats, anything like that, but we can assume they're going to be bangers. Dan Brothers, K-Line. Interesting, there's another Yount with the Topps Yount out there. So interesting to see the makeup of that card when it comes out. Another Kershaw, Sewell, J.R. Richard, and Troy Glaus as the power card. Can't really compete on, or, can't really comment on them because we don't know the numbers. And then the ultimate toppers. These are why you're keeping the cards that may not play up to the perfect level, but you don't want to sell them off because they're going to be part of missions to ultimately get these Cupid Child, Jacob deGrom, and Hank Aaron. And if Jacob deGrom's build is anything like last year, he was meta right up until the end as a right-handed pitcher. Hank Aaron, he came out early last year. He was, I think, the live mission completion. Yeah, and he lasted probably right up until early January as, maybe late December as a playable card. We know, we talked about the right fielder Stan Musial. He's, I think, going to be meta pretty much probably close to end game, maybe. Hank Aaron, at least he deserves to be. Whether he will be, I don't know. But Hank Aaron is going to be the card you want to get. So
I'm going to be interested to see, because one of the things it looks to me like this year is there's more effort that's gone into things like park adjustments for some of these cards. And, Aaron benefited in part from some really good home run parks. And I'm curious to see kind of how that's going to be taken into account when kind of putting together this one.
All right.
I guess it says it here on the card, right?
We're on a break here, Charles.
Yeah.
So let's pick that up when the break's over, because I think you're making a really interesting point here. So we'll be back in a minute and a half and finish off this stream and pull a few that followed today. Thank you, Jeff Steele Flex. Thank you, Sean, for the bits. Thank you to Boiled Egg for gifting out a subscription today to one of the viewers, and for the couple of you that followed too. Thank you so much. And yeah, it is.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll always enjoy it. I'll always fun to be on streams. So
it is a great day for baseball, Charles. Thank you for doing the trivia again. Some great questions. As always, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, give what you can, take what you need. Be careful out there. It's a strange world some days. And yeah, be safe. We will be back on Monday and put together more of the theme team with your guys' help. You will help me with the theme team. We are going to raid over to I Rock This. I guess he's got a new addition in the family here. So we'll go and learn a little bit more about that new addition.
And next week, I promise we are going to be competitive in the bounty draft. One of these weeks.
Is that the Babe Ruth point? Is Charles doing the Babe Ruth point?
Oh yeah, we're pointing. There we go. We're pointing. We're calling our shot. Next week, we are winning the bounty draft, or at least
no. You're calling your shot, not me. I'm not making any guarantees here. But maybe if we don't take Red Sox, maybe we do have a better shot.
Yeah. We might have to.
All right, guys. Again, we're here for a good time, not a long time. So have a good time. The sun can't shine every day. Thank you, Charles. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Wonderful weekend. Stay tuned. We're going to I Rock This. We'll see you next episode.
Thanks a lot.
Told me something the other day. I'd like to pass it on to you. I believe what he said to be true. He said we're here for a good time, not a long time. So have a good time. The sun can't shine every day, and the sun is shining in this rainy city, and the sun is shining, oh, well, isn't it a pity? And every year has its share of tears, but every now and then it's gotta rain. We're here for a good time, not a long time. So have a good time. The sun can't shine every day.